A wrath butterfly emerged from the engravings on the vambrace around Huocheng's wrist. "Follow it," he said. The two looked at Huocheng, then at Xilian. In the end, Muqing said simply, "You two watch yourselves." With that, he turned and hurried after the silver butterfly down another tunnel. A moment later, Fengshen followed. The four thus parted at this fork in the road. As Xilian watched their retreating backs, another series of rumbling explosions echoed in the distance. The pair exchanged a look. "He's here," Huocheng said darkly. "Lead me," Xilian said. The white-clad man had come after Xilian as expected. To ensure he was kept at a safe distance, Huocheng set up wrath butterfly formations at various points in the caves to monitor the situation and slow their pursuer down. Each time an explosion went off and the wrath butterflies shrieked, Huocheng's expression grew grimmer, and Xilian's heart ached. They wound around corner after corner until finally they reached a chamber. Xilian couldn't help but sigh. "I can't believe it. So many silver butterflies have been lost." While the wrath butterflies didn't have a good reputation in the Three Realms, Xilian saw them as nothing but sweet, adorable little spirits. He couldn't help but feel for them. They ceaselessly launched their suicidal attacks just to delay the enemy a few moments more. But Huocheng only snorted. His gaze seemed to penetrate the thick rock walls, and he said, "Don't worry. If he kills one, I'll make 10 more. Fast and furious as a storm, I will never back down. We'll see who's left standing in the end." Xilian's heart skipped a beat for some reason, and he thought, "Oh no, this is bad." Although Huocheng had only displayed it subconsciously, Xilian really was quite weak to his aggressive, rebellious confidence. Another moment passed, and Huocheng slowed his pace, seeming like he'd received some sort of signal. He turned to Xilian. "He's been led away. Those two are almost out." "Great," Xilian said. "Now we can take our time to come up with a strategy." There's no rush now," Huocheng said. "He's been left far behind. We can hide here for a while and think of a battle plan." They both trailed off. An awkward tension silently bloomed between them. This wasn't the kind of awkwardness that stemmed from embarrassment. Rather, they were both feeling strangely shy. With the creature hot on their trail, and Fengshen and Muqing with them, the feeling hadn't been nearly as obvious. But although Xilian had said, "Let's talk later," now that later had arrived, and they'd caught their breaths. He had no idea what to say. Xilian coughed twice to clear his throat, then scratched his cheek with a finger. No matter what gesture he made, nothing felt quite right. He wanted to speak, but he worried that whatever he said would sound too abrupt, or too silly, or like he was trying too hard. In the end, he just hoped that Huocheng would say something first. However, Huocheng's expression was just as strained. On the surface, he looked like he might have been seriously thinking through their battle plans, but it was hard to say whether that was true. The hands clenched behind his back were trembling slightly. They walked past one particular divine statue. Most of the carvings in this cave of 10,000 gods were about the same size as the man himself, but this one was rougher in craftsmanship, and it was shorter by half. When Xilian passed it, he casually peeled off the veil covering its head, and his eyes lit up. "Senlan, did you carve this one too?" Huocheng looked over and fell silent. It took him a moment to reply. "It was from my beginner years. Gaga, stop looking at it." That was clearly the truth. This divine statue was quite ugly indeed, even though it was easy to tell that the sculptor had done his utmost to carve the perfect form he saw in his mind. His wish had been left unfulfilled due to the limits of his skill. While it wasn't cockeyed or crooked, the little figure was disproportionate in scale, and smiled like it was mentally challenged. Despite all that, the sculptor had still managed to include every single detail without fault. Xilian could easily tell this was a god-pleasing crown prince statue. Its ears even had red dots for coral pearl earrings. Xilian silently covered his mouth and turned away. He rubbed hard at his face in an attempt to seem natural. Huocheng didn't know what to say, so he pleaded again as he tried to cover the statue with its veil. "Your Highness, please don't look at it anymore. Don't misunderstand. I think it's really cute," Xilian hastily assured him. But then he realized, wasn't he the one Huocheng had sculpted? If he called this thing cute, wasn't he basically calling himself cute? It'd be incredibly thick-skinned of him to lie so blatantly. Xilian couldn't help but laugh out loud. Seeing him like this, Huocheng bowed his head and lowered his lashes as he started to chuckle along with him. As they both laughed, much of the nameless jittery air cleared away. They continued onward and passed by another statue that was lounging on a stone bed. Its entire body was covered with a layer of thin, smoke-like white satin. Shilian was very curious and was just about to pull off the white veil when the divine statue's body, when Huacheng unexpectedly seized his wrist. Your Highness! Ever since they entered this cave of 10,000 gods, Huacheng had mostly been calling him Your Highness. Shilian looked at him, and while Huacheng let go of his wrist, he still seemed a bit uncomfortable. I already know it's a statue of me. I still can't look? Shilian asked. If Gaga wants to look at statues, the best one I sculpted remains to be seen. I'll show you some other time. Don't look at any of these, any of the ones in this cave anymore, Huacheng said. Shilian didn't understand. Why? I think all the divine statues in this cave of 10,000 gods were carved really well. Really, it'd be a shame if I never got to see them. Which reminds me, those murals, I'll go destroy them, Huacheng said promptly. Seeing that he really planned to head off now and do that, Shilian grabbed him hastily. Don't! Why destroy them? Just because I saw them? Fine. I'll tell you the truth. I've only actually seen a few, like the ones depicting the Shenyang Heavenly Ceremonial Procession, and the one of us in the army. I didn't see most of them because Fengchen and Muqing wouldn't let me, so I have absolutely no idea what you painted. Don't destroy them. Only then did Huacheng turn to face him. Really? Shilian held on to him and replied with the utmost sincerity. Really. If you don't want me to look, I won't. Huacheng seemed to quietly sigh in relief. Then he smiled. They're no good anyway. If there's something you want to see, I'll just paint it for you on the spot. This reaction made Shilian even more curious. But he didn't want to spur Huacheng into destroying those precious murals, so he could only push down his desires. After taking a few steps, Shilian suddenly frowned. Something's not right. What is it? Huacheng asked. Shilian turned to look at Huacheng. White no-face. Why would he come to Mount Tonglu? Perhaps he hasn't fully regained his powers, and he wants to use the kiln to be fully reborn into this world, Huacheng replied. If that's true, wouldn't it mean he's not currently a supreme? Shilian wondered. That's not entirely impossible, Huacheng said. When White No-Face had dropped his disguise as Fengchen and Muqing had attacked, his abrupt appearance had been both shocking and terrifying. Shilian's first reaction was to assume that their opponent couldn't be defeated, so he grabbed Huacheng and fled. But they hadn't actually fought him directly for long, so they couldn't precisely gauge White No-Face's current strength. Was he putting on a front? Or was he stronger than he seemed? Nothing could be determined from a rushed exchange of blows that only lasted a few seconds. I assumed he'd gotten stronger when I saw those two fake skins, Shilian muttered. But maybe he hasn't completely recovered. Maybe he's currently at his weakest. Otherwise, why would he come to Mount Tonglu? Maybe I can give it a shot. Give it a shot and try to take him down. Good. I'll go fight him, Huacheng immediately replied. Shilian instantly snapped out of it and hastily said, No, don't. Don't face him directly. My giving it a shot will be plenty. Supreme Ghost Kings would normally never face each other in combat so easily, as evidenced by the way ship-sinking Blackwater and Crimson Rainsought Flower had been able to coexist in peace. This was because Ghost Kings weren't like heavenly officials, whose profiles were well known to anyone who cared to keep track. From their strength to the perimeters of their powers, to the size of their temples and the number of worshippers. But Ghost Kings hid their true strength just as they hid their pasts. They possessed no knowledge of each other's abilities, and no one knew the potential consequences of a fight between two supremes. This encouraged them to maintain the balance at all costs. There's no need to worry, Huacheng said. The victor hasn't been decided yet. Surely Gaga doesn't believe I would let you face him by yourself. Shilian shook his head. It's not that, Sanlang. It's that we're not the same to him. He won't kill me. I can swear it. Why? Huacheng questioned. After a moment of hesitation, Shilian chose not to explain. He only said, You don't know how terrifying that creature is. Huacheng cut him off. Your Highness, I know, he said grimly. Only then did Shilian remember that Huacheng had also joined the Xianle army and personally experienced the Xianle battlefield. He'd seen the tragedy with his own eyes, the fields piled with corpses. But Huacheng didn't know. He hadn't personally witnessed that horrific battle between Junwu and White No-Face. He had never crossed paths with White No-Face directly. Having considered this, Shilian shook his head forcefully. It's not that I don't trust you, it's just... I don't want anything to happen to you. Hua Cheng's eyes twinkled at this. A moment later, he smiled. Gaga, don't worry. I'm already dead, so it won't be easy for me to die again. Besides, have you forgotten what I told you before? Unless he finds my ashes, he can't do anything to me. Shilian had forgotten entirely that the ashes were a factor. He quickly said, Wait, everything else aside. Sanlang, have you stored your ashes somewhere safe? A long time ago, Hua Cheng replied. Shilian nodded, but a moment later he couldn't help but double-check. Are you sure they're properly hidden? That the hiding place is secure enough and won't be found? To me, it's the safest place in the world, Hua Cheng answered leisurely. Shilian didn't think there was anything absolute out there, however. You're completely sure, he pressed. Hua Cheng smiled cheerfully. If their hiding place is destroyed, then there's no need for me to exist either. Of course I'm sure. Although Shilian was rather concerned about what no need to exist meant, they weren't in a safe place, and there could be ears listening in. It wasn't the right time to probe this subject deeper, so he let it go. But it made Shilian want to ask Hua Cheng, just how had he died? Shilian really wanted to know, but he didn't know how to ask. When mortals died, whether their souls could remain on the corporeal earth depended on their obsessions and attachments. In most cases, anguish and resentment were the strongest fixations. To become a supreme ghost king, one's obsession would have to be extraordinarily intense, so Shilian was afraid that Hua Cheng wouldn't be able to handle it if he asked about his death. It might cause him pain, like stabbing an old scar, and Shilian himself might not be able to bear the details either. These past 800 years, how had Hua Cheng endured them? A horrifying thought struck Shilian, and he was instantly awash in cold sweat. He quickly turned to Hua Cheng. Sanlang! What is it? Hua Cheng answered. Shilian's fingers twitched slightly. I have another question I want to ask you. By all means, Hua Cheng replied. Shilian stared at him. Other than in Qianle, did you encounter me at another place or time at any point in the past 800 years? Hua Cheng slowly turned his head to look at him. Regretfully, though I never gave up and did my utmost to find you, I did not. Shilian pressed him. Really? Hua Cheng looked him squarely in the eyes. Really? Why does Gaga ask? Shilian sighed, an imperceptible breath of relief and forced a smile. Nothing, it's just... The way I passed my days in the earlier years wasn't the prettiest sight. I was a mess and very much a failure. I just wouldn't have wanted you to witness that. Hua Cheng laughed. How could that be? But Shilian didn't laugh at all. It's not a joke. I really was quite the failure. Hearing this, Hua Cheng withdrew his smile and turned solemn. That's fine too. Your Highness, didn't you say so yourself? Me? Shilian was confused. What did I say? To me, the one basking in infinite glory is you. The one fallen from grace is also you. What matters is you, not the state of you. Hua Cheng recited languidly, as he gazed at Shilian. He blinked meaningfully, cocking an eyebrow. I feel the same way. Shilian was stunned, speechless for a good moment. Then he quickly slapped his hands over his face to cover it, feeling like his whole head was burning up. Did I say that? You did, Hua Cheng insisted. Gaga, don't deny it. Shilian used his arm to block his face. I don't think so. Gaga, do you want to see the proof? I'll find it for you, Hua Cheng said. Shilian's head shot up. No way, Sanlang, have you been recording everything? I'm joking. I honestly don't believe you. Gaga, trust me. I don't trust you anymore. The pair came to a fork in the road. Suddenly, a breeze blew in. Hua Cheng tilted his body to shield Shilian, raising an arm as if to protect him. It wasn't a strong breeze. It didn't call for anyone to block it, but Hua Cheng's action had come completely naturally. The wind passed, leaving strands of hair aflutter, tangled in the same way as Shilian's thoughts. Shilian noticed that Hua Cheng's expressions and the contours of his face were cold when he wasn't looking his way. Beautiful in his nonchalance, Hua Cheng didn't even realize he'd moved without hesitation, as if protecting Shilian was innate to him. Sanlang, Shilian blurted again. Hua Cheng tilted his head to look at him, and only then did he flash a smile. What is it, Your Highness? Shilian felt that Hua Cheng probably didn't notice himself smiling. A clear and powerful voice in Shilian's heart told him that this man really saw him as a god. Shilian's fingers clenched furtively. Once we're out of Mount Tonglu, there's a lot I want to tell you. Hua Cheng nodded lightly. All right. I look forward to it. Have Function and Mooching escaped? Shilian asked. They're already out, Hua Cheng replied. And White No Face? Shilian asked. He didn't catch up to us, and he didn't go to stop them. Where is he now? How far is he from us? Hua Cheng's face changed before he could finish, and he lightly pressed 2 fingers against his right eyebrow. A moment later, he said, He disappeared. How could he disappear? Shilian asked in shock. Hua Cheng remained calm as he focused on searching. He's just gone. Completely vanished. That was impossible. Not even a ghost could disappear into thin air while surrounded by wrath butterflies in this cave of 10,000 gods. Let me see, Shilian blurted. He gripped Hua Cheng's shoulders with his hands and went on tiptoe to touch their foreheads together. Shilian rested a hand on Shilian's wrist. What? Hua Cheng rested a hand on Shilian's wrist. No, on Shilian's waist, then hesitated as if he was going to pull away. In the end, his hand stayed where it was and pulled Shilian even closer. The scenes that Hua Cheng had seen moments earlier flashed before Shilian's eyes. The white-clad man strolled through a stone cavern. Countless wrath butterflies rushed him and wrapped him in a shimmering, human-shaped chrysalis. In an instant, those butterflies were engulfed in a crackling explosion of silver light, shattering them into a burst of sparkling glitter. Once that silver light faded, the white-clad man was gone. After that, Hua Cheng's right eye brought Shilian elsewhere in the caverns, sweeping through countless other tunnels. However, the white-clad figure was nowhere to be seen. Shilian was puzzled and pulled away slightly. Could he have left? Now that White No-Face had seen Shilian, he would stop at nothing to harass him. Others might not understand this, but Shilian knew it all too well. Maybe our earlier speculation was correct, Hua Cheng said. His top priority is to use the kiln to regain his supreme status. So he left ahead of us. Hua Cheng's voice was right in Shilian's ear. He only came back to himself when he heard those words, and he realized that Hua Cheng's face was cupped in his hands. Shilian had pulled him down, making the taller man bend slightly at the waist. Shilian quickly let go. We have to stop him, he cried. Their mission was to prevent any candidates with the potential to become supremes from reaching Mount Tonglu. They'd run from the white-clad man earlier, but now that the situation was clear, they rushed through the countless divine statues in search of him. Before long, they reached the spot where he disappeared. Other than some divine statues, there was not a single thing to be found. Silver shards of light covered the ground, and the little butterflies that hadn't been completely destroyed by the shockwave were fluttering their broken wings. Shilian bent down. Even if he didn't know whether it would help, he still wanted to cup them in his hands. Just then, he heard Hua Cheng's voice from behind him. Gaga, come over here by my side. His voice was laced with suppressed anger, but the rage wasn't directed at Shilian. Shilian looked up and saw that Hua Cheng's blazing gaze was trained on a divine statue ahead of them. The statue was covered head to toe with a white veil, but the general shape of it could be made out. One section protruding sharply. It seemed to be pointing a sword. A patch of caustic red at the sharp tip of the sword's point was spreading, staining, soaking the white silk veil. There was blood on the sword. Clearly there was something strange about this divine statue. Perhaps the original was no longer under the white silk that had been replaced with something else. Shilian leapt to his feet and stood at Hua Cheng's side, pointing the sword function at the strange form. Hua Cheng wore a dark expression. He gave a wave, and the white veil fell from the motion. Shilian's pupils shrank. It was a divine statue of Shilian beneath the white veil, a god-pleasing crown prince statue. There was a sword in one hand, a flower in the other, and a smile on its face. But there were traces of blood on that smile. The blood had come from the sword in its hand. A boy dangled there, pierced through. The boy had bandages covering his head and blood covering his body. It was Lang Ying. That's chapter 93.